people be like, if this bitch uses the word nefarious one more time, I'm in the heart of DC, home of a lot of very intelligent people, home of a lot of changes, gentrification. We've lost quite a few people here. Our forever mayor, Marion Barry. Marion Barry is our forever mayor. Let's be clear. He is our forever mayor. Like, he will always have a place in our hearts. And I was making the point, because we were talking the other day. I was in a chat room, and we were talking about Keisha Young, the young lady who got her hair, wrapped around a security guard's hand and was literally dragged down the stairs at a gay pub up the street called Nellies. And the protests are continuing for justice for Keisha Young. She has a GoFundMe right now to raise money for an attorney. And I raised the point that things could have very well gone left. I heard, I'm not sure, I haven't seen it, but there's actually a video out there that's a longer video that you won't catch so much on social media, because she was dragged down the stairs and her clothes were like dismantled and her breasts were like popping out. So it's like nudity and things like that. Like, just imagine that level of degrading and condescending. But even more than that is this whole idea of, well, what if things didn't go that way? What if, because the body, yes, we can endure a lot, but very easily the wrong slip, her neck could have snapped. That could have been the end of Keisha Young right there and then on the steps of Nelly. So we ask, who's making the calls here, and whose discretion or lack thereof, would make them make a decision like that. And so I will be attending the protests. This is the home of Marion Barry. He is our forever mayor. And I was making the point too, like, right now the establishment, I'm sure, because this is kind of like their MO, they're scurrying right now. They're looking for, ways to depict her in a way that paints her as more of a villain than a victim. They're looking for any way for her to seem as if there was warranted cause. This is really textbook. This is always what they do. They'll go through your social media account. They'll find like that one picture, from like your homegirl's bachelorette party where you were dressed like a thot and you got smashed that night and you took a picture for the gram. Like, you could be like a nun, 300 plus days of the year, but they'll find like those one or two pictures where you were totally out of character to try to depict you or portray you as something that you're not. And this is really kind of like their MO. This is kind of what they do. It's really never about what it is. It's always about the optics. Marion Barry was the reason why he's our forever mayor. He loved the people. He fought the establishment for the people. He had love in his heart, which to us was more important than any sort of scandal to kind of tarnish his legacy. Most people didn't care. Bottom line was, chances are that man was in a hotel room with a prostitute, having a little crack. But that was probably the exception and not the norm. Like, I don't think it was like an everyday thing. It was like probably like a once in a while treat for Marion Barry, like to get hookers and hit the crack pipe. But like most of the day, he was like laboring for the people, and we can deal with that. We can deal with that. We can deal with somebody who may have their own personal vices, but they have the best interest of the people at hand. We can accept that because we know that we are being looked out for, protected, and loved. And so we are going to be showing that love in the same light of Marion Barry love for the city, love for the people, love for the poor. We're going to be showing that same love to our sister, Keisha Young, and I invite everybody to come join us. We'll be at 900 U Street protesting. We are really looking for the establishment to get closed down. This isn't the first time they've been warned about their anti-Black racism. This is continuous. But I say that to say that I do have an additional perspective, and I know that there's people that may disagree with me on my opinion, but I'm going to state it anyways. I believe that really this is a matter of classism more so than racism. Why do I say that when we talk about Nellies? A friend of mine who's more of an insider, he used to bartend at Nellies. He's a dancer, and he is a gay man. He describes himself as a flamboyant gay man. Had a friend who did drag. They have a drag brunch, a Sunday drag brunch, where it's a whole thing, and they've been doing it for ages, and people really enjoy this drag brunch. And this particular drag queen was an African-American drag queen, and was probably, from what I understand, the best one there. And there was a lot of hate, and there was a lot of jealousy. So what they said was they wanted to remove this drag queen because they didn't like the caliber of people that were coming to show support every Sunday for her. And they were like, well, what do you mean? They didn't like the crowd. And so what you'll notice, and I can say this confidently because I worked in the service industry for quite some time, especially in a city like Washington, D.C. Now, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. Of course, racism doesn't exist, but it's more so about classism. We live in an area, the DMV, we call it the DMV because D stands for D.C., M stands for Maryland, V stands for Virginia. I live in D.C. Maryland is a hop, skip, and a jump away. I can literally get to Maryland in 15 minutes. Virginia, same thing. I can get to Virginia in about a half an hour or less. It's very, 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 very close. So we call it the DMV. PG County has the highest population of Black millionaires in all of America. D.C. has always had Black mayors. D.C. has always had extreme Black power. D.C. harbored the first Black president. He might not have been from D.C., but D.C. has always had an immense amount of Black power and Black wealth. D.C. is the origin of most of the Divine Nine sorority and fraternities. They mostly started up the street at Howard University. D.C. has always harbored extraordinarily educated Black people. Some may say well-to-do or high-class Black people. And so when they say, hey, and I've heard this, and I agree to some extent, oh, you want the Black dollar, but you don't want Black people. And you hear establishments say that's really not it. It's not. It's not that they don't want Black people. They don't want a certain caliber of Black people. They don't want the type of Black people that would sneak in their own bottle. They want the type of Black people that go up to the bar and they have more than enough money to pay for drinks for themselves and buy a couple rounds for their friends. And if there's some strangers that happen to be at the bar that they strike up a good conversation with, they'll buy some drinks for them too, like it's nothing. So they're thinking money first, economics first. They want a certain type of Black person that is not going to be a put-off to the type of patrons that they want to attract. I've worked at places where somebody from a certain apparent class comes in and it's a put-off to the patrons that were there. Like, oh, I don't know if I want to stay here if they're here. And I'm not saying it's right. I do think it is elitist. I'm just saying what it is. I'm just saying what it is. It's more economics and class than it is about money. And so this is really, I think that the overriding issue is classism over racism. I got to be very candid about this matter. But Nellies has a very long history of practicing things like this, and this is the reason why people are like, this is it. because they've been warned several times. And so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who is definitely like an intellectual. He's brilliant. We went to Denison together. Very, very, very intelligent guy. Actually, he really deserves to be up in the White House because he's that smart. Like, he has the answers to policies. Like, his mind is he's just brilliant. And like brilliant, like next level brilliant. And I have a lot of friends who are like, whoa, like they're mind blowing smart. And so, you know, I have the understanding that it really isn't a matter of how smart you are. People think that your economic status, your fiscal status, your money is a matter of your intellect, and that's really not always the case. And so, you know, we have this notion within the community of poor righteous teachers. And it's almost like a badge of honor that people have to be like a poor righteous teacher, almost as if that's like noble or like honorable or like something of that nature. And I have to quote Tahuti Ma'at, who said like, well, if you shun wealth to such a great extent, then why don't you make a whole lot of it and then give it away to charity? And that was a really great point. Like, it's not a matter of talking about wealth or rich people that's bringing along the assumption that they did nefarious things to obtain that wealth. Not every rich person had to do it in an evil or wicked way. And not every poor person is just automatically righteous because they're poor. Let's be very clear. Nobody really, I'm making a broad generalization, generally nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to not be able to have enough to provide a life for themselves and provide for their families. People desire wealth, but they lack the knowledge of how to obtain that wealth. So rather than shunning the wealthy or assuming that the wealthy did something evil in order to get their wealth, why not study what they did? Why not, you know, take notes from them? Why not observe? Why not ask them, how did you obtain that wealth? Because it does look like hate, like hate and jealousy. Now, I will also say this. It's not always hate and jealousy, because there are a lot of wealthy people who did some real foul mess in order to gain their wealth and to maintain their wealth. But again, it is case by case. It is case by case. Now with elitism, there's this whole thing of old money versus new money. You know, there's levels to this whole thing. Even within the upper class or within the wealthy, there are people who will turn their nose up at another person because they are consider them new money. Or they might even call them, you know, rich white trash or whatever. Not to say like wealthy means you're white or whatever, but you understand what I'm saying. And so, to me, I do see certain things and attributes that are indicative of people who are more old money, who are more exposed, perhaps a lot more well-traveled. We talk about this issue of racism in America. It's not a simple issue. You have some people that are plain racist because they're ignorant. And then you have some people who aren't truly racist. I would kind of categorize like the Clintons or maybe even the Bidens like this, who really may not actually hate white people, but it's more tactical. It's like in order for me to be up, a certain population has to be down. And so it's not like this like intrinsic like disdain for people based off of the color of their skin. Any intellectual knows that it's a very minuscule part of your DNA. It's a very, you know, relatively insignificant component of your DNA. But the broader thing is, well, certain people have to be poor in order for us to be rich. So we get into that conversation of who is feeding who. And I don't want this to be long because I got to get out of here. But when I ask the question, who is feeding who? If, let's say, you get paid to watch poor people all day. So without poor people, you would be unemployed. So who is feeding who? Right? And I'm not big on, you know, it may seem otherwise, but I live a pretty, you know, happy-go-lucky life. I'm not really big on complaining. And so when we understand, right? So I'll take a university as an example, or I'll take even your mom's house as an example. You know, when you get to your mom's house, her rules are you got to take your shoes off at the door. It doesn't make sense for you to every single time you enter your mom's house to complain why you have to take your shoes off. You know that that's the rules. Taxes have always been a thing in America. We've had taxes for damn near forever. We've had taxes. So to complain and complain and complain about your taxes, now don't get me wrong, taxes fluctuate. But to complain and complain and complain about your taxes and how you got to support poor people because of your taxes, there's a lot of countries to move to. There's a lot of countries to move to. And the fact of the matter is, being among the working class, because I've worked, blue collar jobs for a very long time, being your grocer, your waitress, the guy who paves your road, the guy who cuts your grass, likely they're all on some sort of government assistance because minimum wage is just not enough to live off of. You take DC, for example, the average one bedroom is about $2,200. Minimum wage, even raising up to $15 an hour, is what, 15 times 40 if you work a 40-hour work week? That's going to be about, $600 a week before taxes? So let's just, for easy math, say $600. We're talking $2,400 in a month. That's basically covering a one bedroom with $200 left over. And that $200 you might as well write off to transportation to and from work. We're not talking food. We're not talking any other living expenses. And if you have a child, that's a whole different conversation. So majority of people, even after working a 40-hour work week, are still going to be on some sort of government assistance. The rich need to have the perspective of, in America, our taxes do go to social services, yes, but it also goes to the roads being paved, the jobs that we don't want to do, but we definitely enjoy the luxuries of having service when we go out to eat. We definitely enjoy having a smooth road when we're driving our luxury vehicles. You know what I'm saying? We definitely enjoy when we go to the Padres game that, we have a beer tender. We enjoy when we go to the Padres game that we have people to serve us, and all the things that you don't want to do. Let's keep it real. Either you don't want to do or you wouldn't want to do because you feel like it's beneath you. This is kind of what you pay for. And so there's a lot of other options as far as other countries to go to, but the roads may not be paved, your grass may not, the healthcare, all of these things that we take for granted may not be a luxury that you get in a different country. So it's senseless unless you just want to complain all the time. It's senseless to be complaining about taxes because taxes have always been a thing. It's always been a thing. And I'm not an elitist here by any stretch of the imagination. I've been on both sides, which is why I feel like my opinion is valuable. Because I've been around, I've been in the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. I've been around extraordinary wealth, and I've been in very, very humbling experiences as a single mom. I've had both sides. And so I'm able to come at it from more of a balanced approach, knowing that neither rich or poor people can you make a blanket statement and say they're all evil. Because there are evil rich people, there are evil poor people. And when it comes to this issue at Nellies and Keisha Young, yes, I'm going to be out there. Yes, I believe that she should get the advocacy that she deserves. Yes, I do believe that Nellie needs to get closed. But I will have to say, to be completely candid, I think that this issue is more classism than it is racism. And that's all I got to say for now. I'm going to head down to 900U and head to this protest. I hope you guys join me. And until next time, peace.